Hi, and welcome to The Bright Balloon, a podcast where I'm sharing bright ideas for your balloon business. My name is Sarah Meyer, and I'm a balloon business owner like you, and I love the creative side of what I do, but I really love the business side, which seems to be the part where most people struggle. So I'm here to help. Each week, I'm bringing you an episode full of bite-sized tips you can use to make improvements in your business. I want you to make more money, eliminate stress, and learn along with me as we grow our creative businesses together. Welcome to The Bright Balloon, presented by 17 Hats. Hello and welcome to another episode. Today, I am chatting with Flavia, who is the owner of Partistry Balloons in Baltimore, and she also serves the DC area. Chatting with Flavia was really interesting because our businesses are so different. She has a very large staff. She has multiple full-time employees, a fleet of vans, and the quantity that they are able to do in a given day is incredible. So it was a really fun conversation, and buckle up because you are about to hear the wildest story about vans, believe it or not. I'm not going to tell you more than that, but wow, has Flavia had her share of van problems. So we are going to get into it right after this word from our sponsor. Welcome to the U Glue Hotline, where we discuss great advice that sticks. Brought to you by Pro Tapes. If you have a question or some great advice to share, click the link in the show notes to call in and leave a voicemail.
Hi, this is Beza Foster from Bougie Balloon from Fort Worth, Texas, and I was calling with a tip for if you're installing in a public place like an outdoor shopping center. You definitely want to call security ahead of striking balloons so that you can give them a heads up that they might get some calls about the sound, because people can't always see an entire panoramic view of the shopping mall, so they may be afraid there's an emergency happening. And in this day and age, you definitely want to give them the heads up that you're popping balloons.
Pro Tapes is a leading manufacturer of specialty tape products like Pro Gaff, Pro Artist Tape, and our favorite balloon tape, U Glue, which helps you create amazing balloon arrangements and decorations in less time. You can save 5% on U Glue when you buy directly from Having a Party using the code BRIGHT at checkout. And to help promote our brand new U Glue hotline, I am giving the first 10 callers any free download of their choice from the Bright Balloon shop. That includes all templates, courses, or resources. So click the link in the show notes to call in and leave your question for the U Glue hotline. Welcome to this episode, Flavia. I can't wait to talk to you about your business, about your fleet of vehicles, and about some of the craziness that ensues when you have a lot to juggle. But before we get into that, tell us about your business. Introduce yourself.
Hi, Sarah. Nice talking to you again. My name is Flavia, and I have a large-scale balloon business. We're pretty high volume. It's Partistry Balloons, and we service DC and Baltimore. I'm located in Maryland, but right in between both metropolises, so we service both directions. I started the business in 2018, and we have had exponential growth year after year. And we're at the point now where we have a large warehouse, and we have a fleet of 3 vehicles, and there are 6 employees plus my husband and I.
Wow. Are your employees full-time or does it range?
I have 2 full-time employees. I have another one that does about 30 plus hours a week. So she's part-time. She's kind of right on the cusp. And then I have 3 part-time people that just do inflating and help with installations.
Okay, cool. And I think it's hard. People all of a sudden have this full crew. I don't know if you can remember back to when you didn't have that. I guess, what was the tipping point where you needed to hire that first real employee?
Well, the tipping point was when I was juggling everything. I was doing all of the talking to the customers and the inflating and the delivery. And the first employee that I hired was somebody to help me inflate, which is usually the first person that everyone hires. But the tipping point really was my salesperson, because I was spending a lot of time selling And then I would have to build those things. And while I was building those things, I wasn't selling.
Right.
So then I would run out of things to work on. So then I would start selling again. And then it created this up and down of work.
Yeah.
And I figured that if I hired somebody to come in and help me sell, that there wouldn't be an up and down and that the sales would consistently be there.
Yeah.
Also, I wasn't getting back to my clients fast enough. And a lot of times when I got back to them 2 days later, they're like, oh, we already went with somebody else.
Yeah.
I never even got a chance to bid on the job because I wasn't getting back to them fast enough.
Yeah. Interesting. And how long ago was that you hired your first person?
Oh, I started in 2018. I moved into my studio in 2019, in July of 2019. And I hired somebody at first at the end of 2019. Not the end, like I'd say probably September or so.
Okay.
And she was with me for about 3 to 4 months and it wasn't quite working out. And then COVID hit. So then it was kind of like, okay, we're not working anymore. You know? So it was easy to kind of edge her out. It wasn't working. So, and then I kept, then COVID happened and I was back to doing all the sales myself. And I did have somebody that helped me on a regular basis. But then a friend of mine from my old job, I used to work in marketing and she was a salesperson for another department. And we were friendly with each other. I wouldn't say that we were friends. Mm-hmm. Well, she had lost her job due to COVID and she was looking for jobs and couldn't find something. So she saw that I was just going crazy and I really needed help. And then she just reached out to me one day on Facebook and she's like, hey, do you need help? And I'm like, yes, I need help. So she started part-time and then moved on to full-time and then she got the hang of it and she's an amazing salesperson.
Okay.
And I'm a firm believer that you don't have to know balloons to sell balloons. I know that a lot of people disagree with me.
No, the more I do this, the more I think that's actually a benefit. Because they sell what you tell them to sell versus me, I get in my own dumb way and I start selling all this custom stuff that I don't even want to make, but I know exists versus if you just had someone with a menu, it was just like, oh, sorry, that's not on our menu. That's a custom thing. We look
at it a little bit different. I mean, yes, I like all the high profit stuff, the columns and the arches and the garlands and, and she sells a ton of that. She's the one who decided we were going to sell poofs. That's our thing. You have your chunks. We have our poofs. Our poofs are like organic topiaries.
Okay, interesting. And what do people do with those?
Anything. You tie them to poles. You tie them to pens. You put them on a pole, at the gate, at the handrail.
Yeah, on the mailbox.
Spread color. And we charge $65 a piece. So
how big are those? Are you using like 16 and 18-inch balloons in those?
Yes, 16 and 11. So it would be a topiary with 12 balloons, right? Where 2 or 3 of them are 16-inch.
Okay.
And then you add a couple of the small little.
Interesting. I like that.
So we just do that. And then we add some ribbon on the bottom. We just use the poly ribbon and we rip it so that, they have some ribbon. And the ribbon is an add-on of like $10 or $15. And people love it. So if they order like a 12-foot garland, we'll say, would you like some poofs to go with it? And they're like, well, what is a poof? Well, here's a poof. And we show them a picture of it. And so they order like 5, 6, 10 at a time.
That's amazing.
So a lot of our jobs, it's a really nice upsell.
Yeah, I'm definitely to that point in my business where I can't do it alone anymore. And I now have someone who is an awesome inflator. She just started helping me install, and it looks like it's going in the direction of it turning into like a really good, full-time or near full-time position. But that's hard. That's scary at the beginning, like knowing, like, when do you have enough business to support someone? And like, what if you can't pay them enough? Or like, how does that happen? But clearly you got past that because now you have 6.
But Sarah, just like you said, in other episodes, it is the same thing that happened to me. I was nervous about moving into a studio space. I moved into the studio space. The work came.
Yeah.
I was nervous about buying my first van. I bought my first van. Now we could transport big things. And then, it was nervous about hiring a salesperson, and she more than pays for her salary.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think I pay her pretty well. And she's employee is either a benefit or a liability.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So as long as your employees are a benefit, and they're bringing you money, it's a no-brainer.
Oh my gosh. So this month we're reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad over in the book club. And he explains benefits versus liabilities, or no, I'm sorry, liabilities versus benefits. Yeah.
Benefit.
Yeah, I got it right. And so he said the simplest way to think about it is your benefits, they make you money. Your liabilities cost you money. So a lot of times people think their house is their biggest benefit. And like, it's really not. It's not generating you consistent income. So if you think of it that way, your employee, if they're just costing you money, then something's not right. But they should be saving you time, saving you energy, bringing in more sales, meaning that you can deliver and do more. So yeah, I feel the same way, that mine has at least saved my life, because I feel like I die on these busy weekends, but also because I'm able to complete bigger jobs faster, I'm able to do more jobs. So she is kind of paying for herself, like you said.
What I have found difficult, though, is the transition time in between being a one-man show and being a full team.
Mm-hmm.
That transition time of trying to get everything that's in your brain into something that keeps all of the employees working on as cogs to a machine.
Yeah.
Getting to that well-oiled machine part is very, very difficult. But once you get there, it's great.
Yeah. What do you do mostly now? Like, what is your main goal? Is it managing everyone, or what area do you still kind of feel like is your strength?
My strength is staying at home and taking care of my garden and my chickens.
That's amazing.
And playing with my kids.
Okay. So you are really moving into like the owner role at this point. Yes. You're not working in the business as much as
yes,
well, I am.
My plan is to work as little as possible.
Okay.
And I have built a team that has allowed me to do that.
Amazing.
My team is amazing. And getting here was not easy. And at any point, someone could leave, and then I'm back in the trenches again until I can find somebody and train them to the point where it can be a well-cogged well-oiled machine again. So I do go in, periodically 2-3 times a week. We do bonus structures, and I'd like to think that I'm paying well. We have health insurance for our employees. It's come a really long way in 5 years.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm just amazed.
All of my employees have been with me for more than a year. Actually, that's not true. My part-time employee, she's just a weekend warrior. She's only been with me for 3 months.
Okay.
But it's worked out.
You're clearly doing something right. And I like that you hit on your very first employee. Like, it didn't work out, so you let them go. I feel like a lot of people, they try to take that step into having an employee. It's not a great fit. And then they're just like, screw this. I'm just going to do everything myself. So I like that you tried again and got that team.
And as I was saying, it doesn't take a person who knows balloons to sell balloons. And I think the biggest benefit of that is, like, for example, she can look at an arch and she thinks one price, or she thinks how hard it is.
Yeah.
I can look at an arch and I know, oh, yeah, I can make that in 45 minutes. That's easy. I can totally do that 7 color spiral. No problem. But she's looking at it and she's like, oh, that looks really hard. So in something that I would say she should charge $600 for, she'll charge $1,400.
That's crazy. Oh my gosh.
I still get it. And that's the part that I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's amazing. Yeah. That perceived value is built into your salesperson if they don't know. Because sometimes I'll look at something and be like, oh my gosh, I have to add something else because I can't possibly charge that much for this thing that took me like 10 minutes. Like, this looks like nothing. I literally did it today. Someone ordered 1 column as like a delivery, and it took me like 8 minutes. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't possibly just deliver this for what she paid. But they don't know that. Yeah, they don't know that.
No, to them, it looks like it takes a lot longer.
Well, I want to talk about all your vehicles, but really quick, you said you do your high volume commercial. Is that how you would explain your business?
Well, I actually have 3 branches to the business. Okay. I have our custom decor. I have an online store in my website.
Okay.
That's my catch-all, meaning like your self-installed garlands and bouquets and whatnot. So anytime they think our prices are too expensive, we'll send them to the online store.
So those are like pickups?
Either pickups or delivery.
But no installation, really?
No installation, is just usually a drop off. And the reason why it's profitable to us to do that is because we also do Balloon Planet.
Okay.
So it is not uncommon that we'll have 4, 5, 6 deliveries for Balloon Planet. So it's nothing to us to throw in a couple of extra bouquets from our website.
Yeah.
So I have a dedicated delivery person who just delivers balloon bouquets.
Okay.
Now she's moved on to being able to also do like columns and like a small garland, lots of poof. She can do those. But I wouldn't send her, as much as I love her to death. She's not skilled to do, a sculpture or like a balloon wall, but she can definitely go as a helper, as in like indoors and carry things.
So then how many, like on average, how many events or deliveries or whatever, how many are you juggling on a typical weekend?
Well, today we had 13 stops.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
I would lose my mind.
So I stopped by the shop at 9:30 this morning, and this one van was already gone and the other one was being loaded up. And between the two girls, they had 13 stops.
Oh my gosh.
We're just coming out of graduation season. But yes, to answer your question, every day on average for decorating, probably about each van will go do like 3 or 4 installs.
Holy cow. Who manages that part? Do you have a manager who manages that schedule?
I do. So my logistics person, she is the one who assigns the jobs, and normally is due to skill level. She'll assign the jobs, who's going to go with who to where. And then she lists all the locations, and she'll say stop number 1, stop number 2, stop number 3. And then like the ETA for each location. She's very organized.
Yeah.
She's great.
That's amazing.
Amazing. She's amazing.
Okay. But then one of the things I want to talk about now, because you hit on it, is the vans. Like you get your first van and then you get to this tipping point, just like I think a space. You get your first space and then you get to the point where you're like, we're full. We need a bigger space to do more. Same thing with vehicles. Like you're filling up your one van and now you have a crew that could potentially be going somewhere else at the same time, but you have to get another one and another one. So when did that start? How did you work up to 3?
Okay. So the first one was the step up from my minivan.
Okay.
Because it was very hard to do more than one job in one trip. We always had to keep coming back to the shop. So then it was very limiting on how many jobs we could do in a day without having to rent a van. Mm-hmm. And then I had a really nightmarish job where I needed to be there at 5:30 in the morning. And then the evening before, I went to pick up a van, and the key was supposed to be in the lockbox. And I opened the lockbox and the lockbox was empty.
Oh, no, like a U-Haul?
Correct.
Oh, it's like my worst nightmare.
It happened to me.
Oh.
So then I called U-Haul and they're like, well, they must have forgotten to put the key in the box. So then I took an Uber and I went into a not so nice area of Baltimore. Now in Baltimore, there are some areas you go to and some areas you just don't. And I was in an area where you don't. So the Uber driver, he looked at me, he's like, you do not need to be here. And he's like, let me wait for you. Because he was actually like the world's best Uber driver in the world. He actually stopped his clock. And then I went to the key box. Would you believe that box was empty?
No.
100%. By this time, it was almost 10 o'clock at night and I had no van.
Oh my gosh.
So as we're sitting there and I don't know what to do, I'm calling U-Haul again. I'm on the phone on hold. And then we see somebody coming into the parking lot with a U-Haul that they're returning.
Yeah.
And this Uber driver goes up to her. I was like, you're going to freak her out. He goes up to her and he tells her, he's like, listen, I'm an Uber driver. I have this lady. She needs a van for tomorrow morning. She has this big job. But I mean, he went to bat for me.
Oh, that's really nice.
And then I went over there and I'm like, please let me have your van, your truck, which was like insane.
Right, because if you're the customer, I'm like, well, I'm not just going to give you the key to this stranger.
Right. But anyway, in the meantime, I'm still on the phone with U-Haul, and U-Haul gets me in touch with the manager, the guy who was supposed to have put the key in the box. So then he's on the phone with me. He's like, is the person returning the truck there? And I'm like, yes. And he's like, can I please talk to her? So then I handed the phone to the lady. He talks to her and he's like, okay, you can just go ahead and hand the key over to this other person and we'll switch the the information. So he did it in such a way that it was over the phone.
Okay.
And then he had her check out go through the checkout process where she takes pictures and she does all of that. But instead of putting the key in the drop box, she was giving the key to me.
Oh my gosh.
And I was able to do the check-in and I was able to leave. I gave that man $100 tip.
Yeah.
And I actually ran into him about a month later at a sporting event.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
I saw him and I'm like, you're the Uber driver. And he's like, his girlfriend was like, what the heck? And then he's like, I remember you. And I was like, thank you so much. You got me out of such a pickle.
Yeah.
That week, I started looking for my van.
Yeah. You're like, I'm done. No, thank you.
I'm done. It was a nightmare. And there was no way that I was ever going to go through that again. Because what would have happened is I would have had to be up all night. I would have the balloons were ready. It was a 1, a 3, and a 0 for a large location here in McCormick. It was I still remember it.
Yeah, right. It's burned into your brain.
Those balloon people that are here that are my friends know how terrible my memory is. The fact that I remember the client and the situation, you know how dramatic it was. But I would have had to remove all of the balloons from the frame. I would have had to put the frame in the vehicle and carry all of the bags, gotten to the venue and rebuilt it on site.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute nightmare. Would I have done it? Sure. But it would have had to be like multiple trips overnight because it had to be set up by 5:30 a.m.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, now it's even hard to find a van. So I think if people ever think they're going to get to that spot, start looking now.
Here's the other thing. I actually bought that van it was a 2018 and I bought it in 2019. Around October or so. Mm-hmm. I paid $27,000 for that van. It only had 17,000 miles on it.
Holy cow.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It has all the bells and whistles. It has the sliding doors on both sides. It is like top of the line, ProMaster, beautiful. The tallest, the longest. It's a great van. And just a year later, I couldn't get anything anywhere near that price.
You could sell it for that now, easily. Like you could sell it for more than you bought it for. It's crazy, the vans 100%. Right now. Mine is the opposite. Mine was a 2007. I think it had like 150,000 miles. It looked like a gallon of paint had spilled in the back. It was none of the sensors on the doors work. So it always says the doors are open. I'm just like, it's fine. It'll all work out. So all my hazard lights are always going crazy. But I'm like, hey, it gets me to and from the location. So that's all that matters.
But yes, employees and vans, like the more you grow, unless you pump the brakes, you can continue to grow.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a train that doesn't stop. At least it has been the experience for me. And now I'm at a crux of, in my business where I'm like, how much bigger do I want to grow?
Yeah, right. Because otherwise it'll just keep going.
I have hit that number that I really wanted to hit. And then once I'm there, I don't know that I necessarily want to go any further.
Do you want to say what that number is? You don't have to. No. I'm just nosy. Okay, we won't.
Let's just say it's a very high number.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's take a quick break. And then you have a nice horror story for me, I hear. I don't know what it is, so I will be hearing it as you tell it.
It's a good story for sure.
Hey friends, the next time you need to order supplies for your professional balloon business, head over to Havin' a Party Wholesale. They carry all of the brands that we love and need to run our profitable balloon businesses. And they are family owned and operated, and they know the business inside and out. They've even offered listeners of the podcast a 5% off coupon code when you use the code BRIGHT at checkout. So next time you need to order, head over to havinaparty.com. Welcome back. So we've covered growth, your crazy growth. It's amazing. And with growth comes
headaches.
Some headaches. Yes. So you said you have a doozy. Let's hear it.
Okay. So remember the van that I told you about, the one that's a 2018 with the sliding doors on both sides. But this was back in 2021 in April. Was it 2021? Yes, it was in 2020. There's always that pre-COVID, post-COVID.
I know, it's like a lost year. Yeah.
Yes. So we had a really busy weekend, and you know how it is. Like we wake up on a Monday and it's your typical Monday where you're cleaning out the vans. I'm answering my emails. My salesperson was also sitting there. We're working. And then I had a young lady who used to help me with inflating. And that day she went out to the van And she's cleaning the van. She's taking everything out. She's carrying it in. She's like in and out of the shop. And then she starts inflating the Balloon Planet deliveries that were supposed to go out that day. And our shop, this is the shop that I was at before I'm at the shop that I am now. It was located on the line between Baltimore City and Baltimore County. Baltimore City, this particular area of Baltimore City is West Baltimore. And it's well known for like, it's not so great area. Anyway, the road that came out where we were located was at the crux of 3 roads. Okay. And it was on the outside corner of this curve. And I used to park both of my vans side by side, as in like my cargo van and my personal van side by side right next to the shop. And I heard a noise, but it wasn't anything startling because it was a noisy place. So we didn't think anything of it. And then the young lady had the bouquets ready, and then she was taking them out to the van because I was going to go on deliveries that day. When she goes out, she comes back with balloons, and she was white as a ghost, and she couldn't even get the words out. She's saying, "Somebody hit your van." And I'm like, wait, what? Yeah, somebody hit your van. It's really bad. So we all go out there, and there had been a hit and run accident.
Oh my gosh.
So they hit my driver's door and my sliding left side door. And it was like a bad hit. There were parts everywhere. And not only that, the van had been pushed. My cargo van, it was so hard that the cargo van had been pushed into my minivan and pinned my minivan against the wall.
Oh my gosh.
Right. And just like that, wiped out both of my vehicles.
That's insane.
Yes. And now, mind you, my employee was in and out, and she was cleaning out the van. She was there. She was back. Had it been 10 minutes prior, she would have been
in there. Oh, that's horrifying.
It was just a horrifying experience. So of course I'm like shaky, and I'm like, stressed over the situation. And I asked her, I said, "Hey, by this time I had already bought a smaller cargo van, one of the little ones, specifically for our Balloon Planet deliveries. And I was going to go out on deliveries, but I like driving the big van. My employees drive the small one if they can." So I asked her, I said, "Is there any way that you could do the delivery today?" And then she's like, "Sure, no problem." And she's not one that does deliveries, but at the time, and she knew what was going on. So she was going to deliver. Now, here's the caveat. Where my shop was, it was very hard to back up to the door because you had to drive around like a bollard, like a barricade.
Okay.
My landlord was not the best landlord, and he used to make it very difficult for us to get to the front of our shop. But that's not here nor there. So I was like, let me back up the van, because it didn't have a backup camera and it didn't have a window in the back. So since she didn't usually drive it, I felt more comfortable if I backed up the van for her. So I go in and get the van, and I back up to the space. She loads the balloons, and then she goes on her merry way. Meanwhile, my husband gets there, and he's upset because both of our cars, and he's the one who takes care of the vehicles. So, they're like his babies, and he doesn't handle stress well. So he was just frantic.
Yeah.
We also get there, and then they're asking me questions, and then my phone rings. I pick up the phone, and it's my employee. And she's like, "Flavia, there's an accident." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "The hood opened. The hood opened." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And she's like, "The hood of the car opened, and it broke the windshield, and I'm on the side of the road." All 3 of my vehicles now have been in an accident in a period of about 30 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
I handle stress well. My husband likes to call me Grace under fire, because I can have things hitting me from all directions, and I can still keep it calm and collected. But for some, I fell to the ground, and I sobbed like a child.
Yeah.
I was just sitting there sobbing. I couldn't even get the words out. And the police officer, he's like, "What the heck is going on here?" And I'm just like, fragments are coming out of my mouth. I'm like, "Chris, employee, 70, accident, hood." I wasn't even coherent. And I said, "Go help her. Go help her." Oh. So now I'm sitting talking to the police officer's like, "Sit down, calm down." He was like thinking he was going to have to call an ambulance for me. It was that.
And you had
So,
she had your deliveries too. So that's like a whole other layer of like, you
correct.
still have this stuff. I mean, not the most important thing in the world, but still like it's your business.
I mean, it's your business. You can't just call the clients and be like, oh, hey, just kidding. We're not delivering anything
Right.
today. I mean, if we had to, I guess we could, but it was just, it was
So
just
what did
crazy.
you do?
So then he went and picked her up. The car was on the side of the road. He was able to lower the hood down enough that he was able to turn around and drive very slowly back. So ultimately, what happened was, I guess I was frantic with the other accident. And when I backed up the van, I must have pulled the hood latch instead of the parking brake.
Okay.
Because where the hood latch in that van is normally where my parking brake in my other van is.
Okay.
So maybe that's what happened. But these things are in place. There are things in place as secondary locks. Turns out that secondary lock was not working properly. It wasn't, normally you have to put your hand on the
Yeah,
hood.
right. And like lift it manually.
Yeah. So then everything was okay. She comes back, she calms down, she was fine. And that's
I'd be worried if I were her. Like 2 near-death experiences in a half an hour. I
right.
think something was up.
And she's such a trooper too, because she still got all of the bouquet deliveries in her personal vehicle and she went to go do it.
Oh my gosh.
So she comes back and she has the balloons and she puts it in her personal vehicle. She takes it with her personal vehicle and she's a trooper. I am glad that she's okay. You can always replace a vehicle, but you can't replace a person. So
Right. But still replacing 3 vehicles is pretty rough.
it gets better. Anyhow, so back to the original accident. So it was a hit and run. And I don't know how in the world this person was able to drive away with the amount of damage that was done to both of my vehicles.
Right. Like how was theirs still working?
Correct. And lo and behold, the Baltimore police was no help whatsoever. They did ask around, but
they never got him.
No. So anyway, we were able to get some footage from one of our neighbors, and it did show that specific vehicle at that specific time veering off over the double yellow line and heading towards my vehicle, but it did not show the crash and I could not see his face or the license plate for that matter. But it gets better. So we started doing our own investigation and we were able to find the parts in the parking lot of a Ford that was burgundy in color.
Interesting.
So that's all the information we had. But there was a sticker on the fender with a part number.
Okay.
So we looked up the part number and it was something like a 2003 to 2009 Ford. Are you ready? Escape, a Ford Escape.
Okay.
And so we knew the type of car and we knew the color and we knew what it would look like.
Yeah. Why? Okay. So why did you do this though? Because you were just so mad or like?
I was just so mad.
Yeah.
And
I'd be scared.
I was like, let's try to find this car because I want their insurance to pay for it. I don't pay for it. But it's like, it's Baltimore City. It's a needle in a haystack.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the police officer himself, he was like, I mean, we'll put a bolo out, but the likelihood of us finding that car is very, very low.
Yeah.
Anywho, so with that information, a friend of mine was like, you absolutely should put it on all of the Facebook groups. She's like, well, what is the deductible on your insurance? And I said, $500. She's like, well, that's $1,000 right there. If you just do a reward of $500 cash, who knows, you might be able to find the car.
Okay. That's smart.
There's no way, but I mean, I'll try it.
Yeah. So like your local groups and like.
Yeah. So I did all the
groups,
local groups,
yeah.
my page, everything. And I put a picture of the car, of a similar car. If you have seen a vehicle that looks like this with front end damage.
That's like busted.
Anywhere that's, on the side of the road somewhere, please contact me, $500 cash. We found the car. The person who found the car is my bookkeeper.
What?
Who lives in Pennsylvania.
What?
Who happened to be traveling to Maryland that day. And she was writing down 97. And then she happened to see the car and she's like, no way. And then she saw that there was nobody in the car. So she went around, she took pictures and she texted to me and she's like, could this be the car?
Oh my gosh.
And I said, I think so. So then my husband drives to the car. He gets there with the parts. And it was like a jigsaw puzzle. It fit perfectly.
Oh my gosh. What was it? Like a rear view mirror or something?
No, it was the front grille that said Ford.
Okay.
It was the fender.
Okay.
And the airbag had deployed.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I don't know how. This was like a good 6 miles away. I don't know how in the world that there's no way. I don't know.
Right. Like, how are they conscious?
Right. Well, I'll tell you. So before my husband called the police, he went through the car and he wanted to get as much information as possible. Because
my gosh, you guys are so ballsy. I would have been like, well,
we have to be ballsy to own a business, number one.
I would just be like, this is in insurance's hands now. I'm
right. Well, thankfully, it had not been reported stolen, because had it been reported stolen.
Oh, that's what I thought you were going to say.
Right. Then we couldn't have used the insurance information because it was reported stolen.
Okay.
So it was insured. It was valid.
Okay.
So that's good. But here's the information about the driver. This is, my husband opened the glove compartment and he was able to find the registration and the driver's information. He also was able to find lots of paraphernalia.
Okay.
Syringes and needles. And
so the guy was like drugged out of his mind and had like superhuman driving strength.
Yes. And the sad part is that underneath the seat, there was like a metal case. He actually sent me a photograph. He's like, should I open it? And I was like, well, there's either a gun or drugs or maybe money inside of there. So sure enough, he opens it and it was full of, I think it's called Suboxone. I don't know the name of the medication, but it's the type of medication that you give for people who are trying to wean out of.
Oh, sure.
So I guess he had a relapse, went into Baltimore City. And as he's coming out of Baltimore City, he hit my car.
Okay. Oh.
As he was clearly drugged out of his mind.
Yeah.
Because there's no way that a person who's not under the influence is going to walk away from that vehicle. There's no way.
Right.
It was pretty severe.
Well, I can't believe there was insurance on the car, honestly. Like, I would have thought it was stolen. It wasn't insured. There was nothing that was going to happen. So did anything come of it? Like, were you able to contact the person, or like, what did you do then?
Okay. So I could have looked for the guy, looked for, information on his whereabouts and furthered the investigation. But once drugs were involved, I was afraid of retaliation.
Yeah, right.
And, because he knows where I work, like I would often be there late at night working by myself. Like, I don't want any trouble. So I had the insurance information, we could get the cars paid for, and I had no interest in pursuing a criminal charge against the guy.
But you had the satisfaction of knowing what happened, at least.
Correct. And I have looked him up, and there was an article about a child that had drowned.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like putting two and two together. So maybe that's how the drug problem started. I don't know. I'm just like making all these stories in my head that make sense.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm okay with not pursuing charges.
Yeah, absolutely.
Clearly he has enough going on that I'm okay. As long as my cars are paid for, I'm good.
And I feel like I've obviously no one listens to this podcast for like legal advice. God, I hope not. Please don't, if that's where you're getting your information from. But I think it does go to say, like, we're not saying that if someone hits your car, you should go and track them down. This is like a super rare story. I can't believe that this happened, or that you were able to find him. Like,
there's so much more to this story still.
Stop. What?
It gets way better.
No. Okay, keep going. I'm obsessed. This is like the Bright Balloon soap opera.
Story time.
Hi, this is Jeff from Balloon Suite by Asset Lab. We help balloon decor businesses bring in more sales and leads with a high-tech toolkit that includes your website, your domain, your advertising, your search engine optimization. Our plans start at $50 a month, and we'll even buy out your Wix or Squarespace or GoDaddy subscription to help you get onto a platform that's made for and optimized for your business in balloon decor. Check us out at balloonsuite.com.
So we have the car towed. We take it to the shop, but all three of the vans are at the shop. I'm using rental cars, and there's a whole other saga that goes on with all those rental cars, but we won't go into that because that's not as interesting. So this happened on April 12th. And I want to say probably around July, I got a call that my van was finally done because it was, parts were on back.
Oh, yeah.
Right after 2020. I finally get my van back and we're happy to have it. And the very first job we do is a job in Virginia where it was during graduation season. Maybe it was June. It wasn't July. It was June because that's graduation season. We were doing this big arch and we had to park in the driveway. Now, the driveway of this mansion wasn't like asphalt. It wasn't concrete. It was like flagstones, like the really nice, expensive bricks.
Sure.
And we're parked on the hill. And then we leave the job. And as we're like almost to the shop, we get a frantic phone call from the event planner. And she's saying, your van leaked all over my client's driveway. And we're like, what? And by this time we're already an hour away.
Like oil?
We weren't sure. We didn't know. It just came out of the shop 2 days ago. Like what? Turns out it was transmission fluid.
Okay.
And there was a crack on top of the transmission that was from the accident. Now, had they found that beforehand, they would have totaled my car because it had already been $20,000 worth of damage.
Oh my gosh.
Right. And, vans by that time, they had more than doubled in price.
Yeah.
So I couldn't afford to buy another van for the amount of money that I had paid. So it went back to the shop. That event planner never called us back.
Oh, no. Well, that's ridiculous.
But it is what it is. The event planner never called us back. I was waiting for the homeowner to call us with insurance.
Yeah, right.
Which he didn't, thankfully. So I never heard from that person. So I was like, oh, God. Thank God.
I'd be like, no, it was one of your guests. It definitely wasn't my leaky van.
Oh, my gosh. So it went back to the shop. And then probably around August, several months later, we finally had gone back and forth with the insurance company because they wanted to total it. I'm like, no, please don't total it. I don't know what to, it was just a lot of back and forth. They had to get another transmission that was about the same age to replace the one that I had. Finally, I get my van back again. By this time, we had already bought another big cargo van because I just,
right. It just had been your only van. Yeah.
Right. My other tipping point was just that I had to buy I just had no choice. I had to buy another one, which, mind you, it cost me $10,000 more than the original one a year later with not even any of the bells and whistles.
Yeah, that's nuts.
It was insane. The price had just been jacked up so high. But anywho, I go get my van and I'm so excited. I get into the car and it smells.
Oh, like smoke?
Well, it smelled like the guy who drove it to me had farted in the van. So I didn't think anything of it. I rolled down the window, then I just drove off. And I lived about a mile away. So, I didn't think it was just I had my sunglasses on, my arm out the window, and I'm like, finally, I get my van back.
Yeah.
The next morning, I get into the van to drive it to the shop. And I get into the van and it smells really bad. Why does it smell in my van? Did somebody forget their lunch? And I start looking underneath the seats and start looking in the glove compartment. I'm like, man, it smells. It just smelled putrid. It did not smell good. So I open the side door, don't see anything. The only thing I see is a big mattress bag filled with a bunch of bags, which is typical.
Yeah, that's in my van right now. Yeah.
Balloon van is a big bag filled with a bunch of bags. So I go around the other side, I roll up the window, I'm looking in the nooks and crannies. I don't see anything that's out of the ordinary. And then I open the bag.
No, what's in there?
He guesses what was in the bag.
After this story, I'm thinking the worst. I think it's going to be like a cat or a finger or something horrible.
You should go and break.
Will I see you at Float 2024? In 2024, Float will celebrate its 10th official convention, so save the dates to join us in the Chicago area for what is sure to be a once-in-a-lifetime celebration. March 10th through the 14th, 2024, with pre-convention activities March 8th and 9th in Lombard, Illinois. And there's so much more to the Floativerse than just a convention every 2 years. Between weekly shows, monthly classes, an annual global art project, and more, Float is more than an event. It's a culture, a community, and a phenomenon. And don't forget, I'm sponsoring one lucky winner to attend Float for free. So make sure you are signed up for the Bright Balloon newsletter using the link in the show notes wherever you are listening for a chance to win. But don't use this as an excuse to delay purchasing your ticket, because even if you win, we will reimburse you. Trust me, you don't want to miss this convention specifically for balloon decorators. Okay, Flavia, what's in the bag? Tell us what's in the bag.
It was easily a month's worth of human feces.
Stop it. I am going to die. Was someone living in it?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Inside the parking lot of the dealerships. Like,
I'm going to die.
It was so gross. It was so gross.
And they didn't smell it when they were like working on it, or like
maybe they just thought I did something stinky for a living.
Maybe it was the guy who delivered it. He was also living in it. He's like, well, there goes my house.
Sarah, if I'm lying, I'm dying. I can't make this stuff up. I can't.
So were you like, I don't want to pay for this because you let someone live in it for a month? Like, did you call them? Were you like, hey, I think you got
I called my husband first. I was only like, I stopped at the light because I couldn't even make it to my shop that was 5 minutes down the road. That's how bad it smelled. So I called my husband and I was like, I need you to meet me at the dealership like now. So we both get there and we go talk to the guy and I'm like, what is going on? And why is there feces in my car?
Oh my God.
Right. So then he's like, well, about a month ago, we did have some homeless people that had broken into our fence and they had been spending some time inside of the vehicles. And I'm like, why wasn't my van checked? Why wasn't it locked?
Yeah.
When I leave my vehicle here, it's in your hands for you to take care of it.
Right.
Like, why? How does it even happen?
Oh, did they do anything? Did they like reimburse you or do anything?
Well, no, because I didn't actually pay for anything. You know, the insurance had paid for all of it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But I said, I want my vehicle detailed.
Yeah.
I want it washed from top to bottom, and I will not take my vehicle this way. And I need it like now.
Yeah.
So they did. They washed it, did a terrible job because it still smelled.
Oh.
So then I said, I want a new mat, like the rubber mat.
Yeah.
That I want a new rubber mat because this one smells. So my husband pulled it out and scrubbed it and Cloroxed it and scrubbed each side, flipped it around, scrubbed it, and it still smelled. So I think that what was happening is that it was in the doors themselves.
Okay.
Like urine or, other bodily fluids were like in the walls of my van. Right. And he went out there with the hose inside the van and like scrubbed it down and Cloroxed it. And even like a month or two later, we could still smell it.
Oh
now,
my gosh.
We can no longer smell it. Now I don't know.
You still have it? That was going to be my next question. Did you
have it? Yes.
I would just been like, this is cursed.
I don't know if we just grew nose blind to it. But yeah, that's my crazy story.
That is insane. Insane. Yes. I don't really know how to wrap this one up, Flavia. You've really stumped me with human excrement, even after all this.
So
you want the vans, all the employees?
100%. And we're looking into getting another big van.
Oh my
God.
Crazy
story of the worst day of a business owner being April 12th. It will go down in infamy every year. I remember it is a true story.
Oh.
Even though it sounds like a fib. And yeah, being a business owner sucks sometimes. It's really challenging. Having a fleet is not for the weak.
Yeah.
I have had a delivery driver drive outside of his route into West Baltimore before.
Okay.
So I don't know what he was doing there.
Yeah.
And the reason why I know is because I did put a GPS tracker on them.
Okay, so you do track your vans. I was wondering.
Right now, they're not being tracked. But I after noticing that, he wasn't coming back fast enough. Like this delivery, he should have been like a 1 hour round trip, and it's been 3 hours.
Yeah.
Because, when you have employees, you have to trust them.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't micromanage. There's just no way. In this type of business, they're going to be off doing their own installations. They're going to be, you have to trust. You have to trust. And my employees have my full trust until they give me a reason not to.
Yeah.
That's usually right when I hire them from the beginning. I always say, I trust you implicitly with my business. Here are my keys. Here's a key to the shop. Here's the keys to the car. I'm going to expect you to treat my place and our place of work as you would treat your own things.
Mm-hmm.
You give me a reason not to trust you. That's like, trust for me is everything.
Yeah.
And so far, it's been great. And that one specific delivery driver, it didn't work out because I couldn't trust them.
Yeah.
And so we did have something called Vinks, VYNCS. I purchased that on Amazon. And that was good, but I am looking to do a different tracking system, which is the same things that FedEx, Amazon, that they use, which is, each employee has their own like badge, and then they check in and check out on the van. So, and then it has like it captures video inside the vehicle and out. It detects distracted.
Oh, cool. It's like a Ring doorbell, but like in a vehicle.
For the vehicle. And then if there's any kind of like a bump or anything like that, it starts recording. It will tell the driver, look at the road, stop looking at your phone, type of a thing.
And that's cool.
Yeah, it does have.
It would hate me.
Right. And then it also grades the driving. And then it will say things like it has like smart detection where it says there's an accident ahead or traffic is slowing down. So it does talk to you. And those are all features that you can like turn on and off, because I can see how that would be kind of annoying. But, it's important. I'm not with them in the car. So it's important to see what their driving habits are.
Yeah, that's awesome. Especially with the number of deliveries and stuff that you do. And then times 3 vans. Like, I understand why it would be essential for you, but also more efficient for the business overall to have some of that stuff.
We also have issues with speeding tickets. We have lots of speeding cameras in the areas in which we deliver to. So we have like a 3 a year. Like you get 3 speeding tickets a year.
Oh my gosh. And then they all go to you, right? Because it's your van.
Oh yeah. They all go to me, and I don't make them pay for it because
interesting.
With the amount of time that they're on the road, I would expect them to get a speeding ticket. We're talking like 10 miles over, it takes a picture of you. So they know. And, every single time one comes in, I have them sign it, and so that they're aware that I'm paying this, and this is your strike too, so.
Oh, interesting. Well,
so most
and
part,
I think,
really
I think to wrap up, I don't know that many people are going to get to your level. I don't, and I don't know that everyone wants that size of a business, but I think there are a lot of us, me included, that are kind of, we're struggling to take that first step into having full-time employees. What would your advice in that area be? Like what's something to keep in mind, or what's like a very simple action step? How can we get ourselves some help? I'm lucky. I think my situation's working out really great, but I chat with people that don't know where to look. They don't know how to hire. They don't know what to pay. They just want to do everything themselves. What's your advice in that area?
Well, when you have somebody, if you have a large cargo van, it drives different than the car. So I would highly recommend that if you have somebody else that's going to be driving your vehicle, that you actually take the time to drive around with them, teach them how to do corners, teach them how to drive through tight streets, how to take corners wide. Be aware of the height of the vehicle. It has to have a 9-foot clearance. You can't go into, you really do need to drill that down, and then also create a rule for the van. So I have a van, a van contract, what their allowed to do what they're not allowed to do. Once they come back, it has to be emptied. Like the whole list of like what you.
Oh, I really like that. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, you can't leave your drinks and food in the vehicle. You have to clean up after yourself. You cannot drink before you drive. You cannot smoke pot before you drive. Things that you're not allowed to smoke in the vehicle. And then they have to sign that. They have to sign that is their agreement, that they're allowed to stop for a bathroom break if they have to. And they're allowed to stop for lunch if they clock out. And it's okay if they're in the road that they can drive off their route to stop at a restaurant as long as it's within a 5 mile off the route option. Because I don't want them to be like, oh, I want to eat at that one restaurant. It's like 20 minutes away.
Right,
so
right.
Off the route. With everything, I ask my employees about the trust thing. Like it all evolves around trust. But I do have to have them sign what my expectations are for the vehicles.
Yeah. Interesting. And then, so for me, having someone come into my shop and inflate balloons was one thing, but having someone drive my van, it seems nerve-wracking. So you have to get them on the insurance, I'm assuming. You have to insure them. And then would you recommend starting with someone to do installs, or is a baby step like starting with takedowns? I know strikes are a big thing. Like, how would you introduce your employees?
Takedowns would be a good start, but I can't see you keeping an employee happy with just takedowns.
Right. Like your hours are between 11 p.m. and midnight every day.
Right. See, in my case, I can have the person who does deliveries also do takedowns because it's a low skilled, both of those are low skilled, right? But when it comes to deliveries, you can do columns, you can teach them how to do arches, and it's have them shadow you first. They go with you as helpers to the point where they're able to go by themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
But you're never going to have freedom in your business if you're doing all of the installations yourself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
If you ever want to get to the point where you're working less and making more, you have to give up the control. And I think that's a big part. And a lot of the balloon businesses that I know, that they have never moved on from that solopreneurship. I have never been able to move away from that because they want full control of their business and full control. And does every single garland or every single thing that my staff does, is it to the way that I would do it? No. Is the client happy? Yes.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah.
And then if they do, and that's another thing too, like every time they go on an install, they will send me a photograph of the job before they leave the site.
Okay.
If something is incorrect, I tell them to fix it.
Yeah.
It rarely happens. I'll be honest with you, my team is amazing.
That's awesome.
Rarely happens. But, they do get an okay. So I'm always on call. I always they get an okay from me and then they leave.
Very cool. Well, you've given me something to think about. I mean, first of all, now I question leaving my van at a shop for long periods of time, but that's just going to be a nightmare that will haunt me for the rest of my life. But in terms of the help and kind of like you said, like relinquishing control, but it also comes down to like systemizing and getting stuff out of your head. That's kind of the point I'm at now. I'm getting my recipes out. I'm like, we're really hitting our groove, which is great, but it took me a long time to get to that point. And I think the next step for me is going to be solo installs, which requires driving the van and knowing kind of how to be on your own. So this was a timely episode for me. So selfishly, thank you. I really appreciate it.
So we have gone fully paperless. My entire staff is controlled by our project management software.
Oh, what do you use? I'm curious.
We use Trello.
Okay.
And I will be teaching a float. And I will be covering how we use Trello to control all the facets of my business so that everybody has all of their install information and deliveries and address and client information and photos of what it's supposed to look like, et cetera, all of their fingertips on their phone.
I'm obsessed. Hopefully, because I'm teaching at Flow too. Hopefully my class isn't at the same time because I definitely want to go to yours. That sounds amazing. And if anyone's listening, this episode will come out in time for you to still enter. I'm giving away a free float ticket. So all you have to do is sign up for the email list, which will be linked in the show notes. And Flavia and I will both be there. I'm very excited. Yay. I know. I love Float. Well, Thank you so much, Flavia. It was so nice to finally connect. And side note, Flavia helped me out really recently with these big silver inflatable ball things. She gave me a contact. And so proof of having, a network of other balloon people. They came, thank God. I just PayPal'd a bunch of money and hoped that they showed up. The event is next week. I think it's going to kill me. I'm so stressed out, but I got the materials, which was the first part. And now I have to figure out how to hang them from the ceiling. So to be continued.
Make sure you have a lift.
Yes, I do. Those suckers are heavy. Yeah. But well, thank you. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to connect with you again. And also at Float and online, where can people look you up if they want to see your Instagram or check out your website or learn more about you?
I'm at Partistry Events, and that's artistry with a P in the front. So partistryevents.com. And I'm in the process of rebranding to Partistry Balloons.
Okay.
So on Instagram, you'll find me at Partistry Balloons, but I haven't updated it in so long. So some of the material that's on there is kind of old, but whichever way, my work is there.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening. As usual, I tried to keep it bright and light. Our presenting sponsor is 17 Hats, the CRM I use to cut the chaos and manage my entire balloon business. From the lead capture form on my website to workflows and email templates, invoicing and grab-and-go garland automated bookings, it's all powered by 17 Hats, the best customer relationship management system for balloon businesses. There's even a 50% off coupon code waiting for you in the show notes wherever you're listening. I'll see you next week in another episode.